Good morning and welcome. Today we're going to take a journey together. It's a journey through time, looking back at the moments that have truly shaped America. Our country is like a person with its own story, its own memories, its own heartaches, its own triumphs. Some events are so big, so powerful, that they change the way we all think, feel, and live. They get into our minds and our hearts, and they stay there. These moments are more than just dates in a history book. They are the turning points that have defined who we are as a people and who we are as a nation. We will look at 10 major events from the 1900s all the way to today. We will start long ago and travel forward, seeing how each moment built on the one before it. Think of it like building blocks. Each event adds a new layer to the American story. Let's start our journey in the 1920s, a time known as the Roaring Twenties. It was a decade of incredible excitement and change. After the hardships of World War I, many Americans felt a new sense of freedom and possibility. Cities grew bigger and brighter, filled with the sounds of jazz music and the sight of new cars on the streets. For the first time, many people had radios in their homes, connecting them to the world in a whole new way. People felt optimistic. They believed the good times would last forever, and that anyone could become rich. The stock market was booming. Ordinary people, not just the wealthy, started investing their money. But then, everything changed. On a dark day in October 1929, the stock market crashed. The Great Crash hit like a sudden, violent storm. The value of stocks plummeted. Fortunes people had built vanished in an instant. The feeling of hope was replaced by a deep, chilling fear. The dream of the 1920s had turned into a nightmare overnight. After the Great Crash, America fell into the Great Depression. This was a time of terrible hardship. Millions of people lost their jobs, their homes, their hope. They stood in long lines for bread soup, and many families were broken apart by the stress. The government, under President Herbert Hoover, seemed unable to stop the downward spiral. Americans were desperate for a leader and a reason to believe again. In 1932, Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected. FDR arrived with confidence and action. In his first speech, he said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Those words were a ray of light. He promised a new deal, a real promise of help, a commitment to fight the Depression and care for citizens. For many, a glimmer of hope returned. The New Deal was programs and projects to get America back on its feet. Just as America was beginning to recover from the Great Depression, a new shadow fell across the world: World War II. At first, most Americans wanted to stay out of the conflict. They remembered the pain of World War I and were focused on the problems at home. The feeling was strong. This was Europe's war, not ours. Everything changed on December 7, 1941. On that quiet Sunday morning, Japan launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. The attack was swift and devastating. It shocked the nation to its core. Safety and isolation were shattered. Suddenly, the war was no longer distant. It was on American soil. The attack created a wave of anger, fear, and determination that swept across the country. The debate over isolation was over. America was now at war. The war effort transformed American society and created a powerful sense of national unity. People from all walks of life came together to support the cause. Everyone felt they had a part to play in this shared experience. After the victory and unity of World War II, a new and different kind of conflict began: the Cold War. This was not a war fought with soldiers and guns on a battlefield. Instead, it was a long, tense rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. These two superpowers had very different ideas about how the world should be run. This fear was especially intense because of the threat of nuclear weapons. The United States had atomic bombs, the Soviet Union had atomic bombs, and people lived with the terrifying knowledge that a nuclear war could destroy the world in an instant. This anxiety seeped into everyday life. Schools ran duck and cover drills, teaching children to hide under their desks in case of an attack. Some families even built bomb shelters in their backyards. This fear of communism also turned inward, leading to a dark period in American history known as the Red Scare. A senator named Joseph McCarthy began to claim that communists had infiltrated the United States government, Hollywood, and other important institutions. He held public hearings, accusing people of being disloyal to America. This created a witch hunt atmosphere. The Cold War and the Red Scare left a lasting mark on the American mind. For centuries, America had lived with a deep and painful contradiction. The nation was founded on the idea that all men are created equal, Yet millions of African Americans were denied their basic human rights. They faced segregation, which meant they were forced to use separate schools, water fountains, restaurants. They were often prevented from voting through unfair laws and intimidation. But in the 1950s and 1960s, a powerful movement for change rose up to challenge this system. The civil rights movement was a struggle led by brave African American activists and their allies. Leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. advocated for nonviolent protest. They organized marches, sit-ins, boycotts. Events like the Montgomery bus boycott showed the power of ordinary people standing together. The 1963 March on Washington, where Dr. King delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech, brought the struggle for justice to the nation's television screens. The movement was met with fierce and often violent resistance. Protesters were beaten, attacked by police dogs, sprayed with fire hoses. The civil rights movement led to landmark legislation, like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, fundamentally changing how Americans thought about race and equality. In the 1960s and early 1970s, America became deeply involved in the Vietnam War. The conflict was part of the larger Cold War struggle against the spread of communism. At first, many Americans supported the war, trusting their leaders' judgment. They saw it as another necessary fight for freedom, similar to World War II. But as the war dragged on, more and more American soldiers were sent to fight and die. This was the first television war. Every night, news reports brought the brutal reality of the conflict into American living rooms. People saw images of combat, wounded soldiers, suffering Vietnamese civilians. The graphic images created a credibility gap between what the government was telling people and what they were seeing with their own eyes. Many Americans, especially young people, began to question the war's purpose and morality. This growing opposition led to a massive anti-war movement. College campuses became centers of protest. Young people held rallies, they burned their draft cards, they marched on Washington. The country became deeply divided. On one side were the hawks who supported the war. On the other side were the doves demanding an immediate end. For nearly 3 decades, the Berlin Wall stood as a grim, concrete symbol of the Cold War. It was built by the Communist government of East Germany in 1961 to stop its people from fleeing to democratic West Berlin. The wall physically divided a city, but it also represented the deep ideological divide between the communist East and the free West. For generations of Americans, it was the ultimate symbol of oppression. It was a physical reminder of the Iron Curtain that separated free nations from those living under totalitarian rule. Then, in 1989, the unbelievable happened. After weeks of mass protests across Eastern Europe, the government of East Germany announced that its citizens were free to cross the border. On the night of November 9, 1989, crowds of East and West Germans swarmed the wall. They cheered, they cried, and they embraced each other. People began to climb onto the wall, dancing in celebration. Others took hammers and chisels and began to physically tear it down, piece by piece. The images were broadcast live across the world, and Americans watched in awe and disbelief. For Americans, the fall of the Berlin Wall was a moment of incredible triumph and relief. It felt like a victory in the long, tense Cold War. President George H.W. Bush spoke of a new world order where democracy would spread and nations would work together. On the clear, sunny morning of September 11, 2001, America's sense of security was shattered. Terrorists hijacked 4 airplanes. 2 of them were flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. Another hit the Pentagon just outside Washington, D.C. The 4th plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania after passengers and crew fought back. The attacks were broadcast live on television as the towers crumbled. The immediate aftermath was profound shock, grief, and fear. Nearly 3,000 people were killed, lives lost from around the world. For days, the country was in suspended animation. Air travel was shut down. Airports empty. People desperately tried to contact loved ones. A deep sense of vulnerability replaced the old feeling of safety. Yet a wave of patriotism and unity swept the nation. Previous political divisions seemed to vanish, outpouring of support for firefighters, police officers, and paramedics. Many first responders made the ultimate sacrifice. The 9/11 attacks permanently changed America. They led to the creation of the Department of Homeland Security and new airport security measures. They led to long, difficult wars in Afghanistan and Iraq as part of a new war on terror, leaving a lasting mental and emotional scar. As we look back on this journey through a century of American life, we can see a powerful story unfold. It is a story of a nation constantly being reshaped by monumental events. From the despair of the Great Depression to the unity of World War II, from the painful divisions of Vietnam to the shared grief of 9/11. These events are not just relics of the past, they are living history. Their echoes can be heard in our political debates. Their echoes can be seen in our communities. Their echoes can be felt in our national mood today. These moments have taught us profound lessons about ourselves. We have learned about our own resilience in the face of hardship, as shown by the generation that survived the Depression and built a better future. We have seen our capacity for great unity in times of crisis, but we have also seen our potential for deep division when fear and disagreement take hold. The struggles for civil rights and equality forced us to confront the gap between ideals and reality, pushing us toward a more just and inclusive nation. These experiences shaped our collective memory and national character. The feelings and attitudes forged in these moments continue to influence us. The desire for a government safety net, born from the New Deal, still shapes debates about healthcare and social programs. Ultimately, this journey shows America's story is one of constant change and adaptation. These 10 events are chapters in a larger book still being written. By understanding our shared past, we are better equipped to face today's challenges and to keep shaping America's story for generations to come. It would be awesome if you could like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't hesitate to leave video topic suggestions in the comment section below. Be well, mind, body, and society.